Welcome back, folks. Football time is here. It seemed like it was yesterday we were doing this, so it flew by. 30 days from today, we'll be getting on a plane to go play Iowa, so it'll go by in a blur. We've had a good summer. Feel good about kind of where we're going, headed into fall camp. I think the staff has done a really good job in the new world of college ball at filling our roster with guys that can help us. If you look, you're going to see roughly 57, 58, maybe even 59 new bodies total on the roster. That's that's including everybody. And I think we're at 39 scholarship players added to this particular roster from last season. And so 30 of those, I believe, are transfer players from either the junior college or the four-year college level, all of which we anticipate adding value this fall. So that could be the best thing ever, or it could be the worst thing ever, because that's a lot of new bodies to get ready in a very short period of time. 9 of those guys being high school players, and most of them being here from the state of Utah. So that's the largest number that any of us have dealt with. I think it's just what we got to get used to. It's encouraging in the fact that we've got depth and size and speed in some areas last year that we were struggling. But also, the million-dollar question is how quickly can these guys get acclimated to football here and at this level and make an immediate impact on the field? I mean, what's that going to look like? I'm one of a bunch of head coaches all across the country asking that same question today. How do we get new guys ready as quickly as possible and go out and put together a team instead of, some individual talent? So we're going to do our best to try to speed up the learning curve over the month of fall camp and try to find guys that can impact our team in a positive way. So with that being said, man, fall camp is a grind, and this one will be no different. We start in the morning with our first practice, first team meeting today, NCAA compliance, and you'll look up and literally you'll be getting ready to get on a plane to Iowa before you know it. So what questions do you have? And I'll be happy to answer them.
So, Coach, just given all the circumstances, obviously going into fall camp, if you had a perfect fall camp, what would that look like?
Well, getting out of it healthy would be huge. We struggled with so many injuries a year ago. I compare 21 and 22 in terms of guys in the two deep that were injured. I counted 5 in 21. We had 27 last year. So being healthy would be huge for us. And then getting all these new bodies on the same page where we can line up and play football, everybody on the same page. We've got to be able to speed up the learning curve for some guys that are getting here late. That's always a challenge too. So perfect world, healthy and ready to look like a football team when we go to Iowa, so we don't beat ourselves. Then the matchups become the next question. But the first part is just being able to line up and play ball soundly, be lined up, be in the right spot, know what the calls are, communicate well. We got a lot to do in a pretty short period of time.
Coach, how many of the new guys have you really not practiced with, formal practice?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know that number. We had a handful in the spring, but we have added also probably of that 30, I would say probably not half, but maybe, probably a third of it were not here for spring ball. And a lot of guys weren't even healthy to go through spring. We had a lot of guys who were out due to injury. So this fall camp are going to be heavy reps for a lot of guys, especially on defense, that just haven't played football with us yet. And that's a big challenge for Joe and the defense for sure.
What is the sort of injury report heading into fall camp? Who isn't participating?
We're relatively healthy right now. There'll be Val Mamea is still not quite ready yet. Several guys that are going to be limited. Parker Buchanan is still probably on a limited phase. But in terms of just that cannot practice at all, Vaughn is probably the one I know for sure that strictly just not ready to practice yet. Everybody else is healthy-ish and maybe in a limited phase. But otherwise, we're in relatively good shape.
Just, Coach, I just want to ask you about Ethan Morris. This will be his 5th season with you.
Yeah.
How rewarding is it to the guys obviously paid his dues to promote him and give him this opportunity?
Well, if you look at my career as a head coach, that is something that I've always tried to do if it fit. And it doesn't always fit. In this particular case, it did. Ethan has done a phenomenal job for me since day one that I hired him. He was very highly recommended when we hired him back in Arkansas State. And basically every duty and job I've given him along the way, he's done. He's done exactly what I've asked him and more. This particular case, being able to put him out there this spring and just kind of see how he did, it was not a guaranteed, just your job. This was, how does he respond with the room? And I thought Joe was really, really pleased with him, as was I. The kids responded well to him. He's always been phenomenal in the recruiting space. This was the other step to that, to control and own and hold accountable your own room, and we thought he did a great job. I love elevating guys that have proven their way, that know your culture, that have earned the opportunity. We could have gone out and maybe opened things up, but when you got one right in the family with you that's already doing all the things you need him to do, I just think it's great to elevate and reward guys. And I think our kids responded really well to him, and we're excited to have him coach in that room every day.
Coach, you have 5, though, I think, new full-time coaches.
Yeah.
Is that different for you other than going to a new job, or how do you feel about that transition or your reaction to all this?
Well, I feel good in the sense that I was able to hire a defense coordinator that I know intimately. I mean, Joe and I spent a lot of time together, 5 years at Arkansas State, and have known each other since the late 90s. In that sense, there's some comfort. Having to hire bodies is not something that you always have to do. But when you hire good people, you're gonna go through that. We've been able to hold that off at times, but I just think it's the nature of it. Sometimes I look at it this way: it is inevitable. You hire good people, you're gonna lose some along the way. They're gonna get opportunities, and we had a bunch of guys that did. You're always also going to get a new perspective, a new thought, a new technique, just a new energy to the room, and try to take it for the positives that I can instead of focusing on things that can't control. I mean, it's going to happen. It's going to happen these days. It's going to happen with players and with staff to some degree. So we better just get busy at finding a positive, because we spend all day worrying about the negatives. I am pleased, though, that Joe's relationship with me, the familiarity with what, how and what he does was important, especially with me stepping back into the offense full tilt. That would have been really hard had I not had that access to him. And he's exactly who I wanted to hire. So I'm hoping that helps with some of the transition.
Coach, Ike Larson had such a major impact for you guys last year. What do you want to see in year 2 of his development as a leader and as a player on the field?
Just growth, maturity. He is one of those rare individuals that, for whatever reason, the moment just doesn't, it's just never too big for him. He's very calm in maybe the biggest moments. And I think that's a skill. It's kind of an innate skill. It's not one of those things that you can really teach. If you do, you can't teach it quickly. It takes time. But as a true freshman, the kid just doesn't get flustered. He seemed to make his best plays in the biggest moments, most critical. I just want to see him continually grow, stronger, faster, more vocal, more accountable, take on some leadership roles if at all possible. I think that's the next progression for him. Now, he's going through transition too. He's got a whole new back end in terms of coaches and defense. I mean, there's a lot of changes for him, and how does he handle that is really, really important. Have challenged him. He's been good in terms of how he's responded, but I mean, he's young. That's a lot to ask for him too. So I think that's going to be critical over the next month, is really how does he gel with Coach Ethan, with Coach Mitch and Joe on that side of the ball, so that he fits in and can really stand out the way we need him to.
Coach Anderson, I noticed there's a transfer portal guy I was unfamiliar with, Avante Dickerson of Oregon, cornerback. Can you tell us a little bit about him and why you feel like he's a good fit?
Well, speed, ability to play man coverage. He was one of those guys that we really have not ever stopped recruiting since the last snap of last season's game. I mean, that's the reality of it. It's a completely different environment. We did hit dead period in January, and we couldn't bring guys on campus anymore, but we've also added several guys since dead period started. So Avonte's one of those guys that it was it was a process with us. We battled several other schools to get him to say yes, but then the process of getting his classes done, getting him eligible, and getting him here has taken really all summer. So we're gonna see the first physical football from him tomorrow. But on film and tape and all the things, talking to the coaches, his speed, his quickness, that defense is very similar to our style of defense. Dan Lanning and Joe Cawthon, my D coordinator, they talk a lot of similarities, so I feel like there'll be a lot of carry over. I think the versatility to play multiple positions in the back end, but speed and the ability to play man coverage were two of the first things that stood out. And then honestly, just overall personality and character. Nothing but great things said about the kid coming in. Have enjoyed getting to know him. Think he adds a ton of value to our locker room.
Coach Cooper Legas coming into this fall as the #1 quarterback. I mean, he's had the last couple of springs as the #1, but he always had somebody else ahead of him. Just how would you assess like his development and moving into the role as the starting quarterback this fall?
Yeah, really pleased with his development over the spring and summer. Didn't guarantee him anything when we went out in the spring, other than that you'll take the first rep with the ones. At that point, it's a daily competition, and he never really put his job in tremendous jeopardy. He was always clearly the most prepared. That comes great work ethic. Obviously, he's smart and knowledgeable, but he does put in the time. He's gotten bigger. He's in better shape. He's one of the first guys that wants to take his shirt off every day, so you can see his muscles and his body, just how he's developed himself, which I think is a great thing. That's some confidence. I think he has done everything I've asked him to do to prepare to be at his best starting tomorrow. Now, that being said, I'm very honest with every player on our team, including him. If Levi Williams can close the gap or McKay Hillstead can close the gap and be better for our football team, then they're going to get that opportunity. But he is the starter. It is his job to lose, and he's going to take 95% of the reps with the ones unless he's not performing consistently like he needs to, which I don't think will happen, or number two, somebody else is performing at a ridiculously high level. I feel like he's our starter and the guy we're going to build around. So I'm really, really pleased and expecting him to just continue to get better. The more comfortable he gets with me as a play caller and coaching him, the system and the things that we've done to adjust, it's only going to get better for him, I think, moving forward.
Coach, Terrell Vaughn, last year he was one of the newcomers. This year he's one of the only returning starters, at least on the wide receiver core. Like, have you seen his role kind of change, and how important will he be this upcoming season?
Tremendously important. Hugely important for us. My job to make sure I get him enough touches. He's one of those guys that can literally change the game in one play. I mean, he can take a fly sweep or a bubble screen or whatever else and take it the distance. He can also run past you. I thought the last 3 or 4 games of the year he came out of his shell, had a great game against Boise in a big environment. He's starting to also become way more personable. He's a super quiet guy initially. He's not that guy anymore. Not that he talks a whole lot, but you can see a confidence about him. He's willing to speak up. He's willing to take ownership of the group, very comfortable in his own skin. I think he's one of the best slot receivers in our league, maybe one of the best slot receivers in the country. His ability to return kicks and punts is a huge weapon. But, for us, we got to do a phenomenal job of making sure we utilize him enough. And that's one of the emphasis of the spring, too, of creating opportunities for guys like him in space. And I think he's going to be a problem for folks. He's very, very confident in what we're doing at this point. He was not a year ago. Kind of goes back to the conversation earlier. He was one of those new guys that was still kind of figuring out college football. And if you watch the first half of the year, look completely different to what he looked like the second half of the year. We got to speed that curve up. He's one of those guys that's going to, I think it'll be a lot of fun to watch.
Coach, my observation of your team is that really you say Legas is your starting quarterback. I don't know if that position is totally, on the whole team, a line, a position, or anything. Do you feel that way in some ways about your team?
Well, a little bit, and I don't think that's a bad environment for guys to be in. I want them to always feel like the guy right behind them is capable of taking their job if they don't come ready to go every day. Now, we want guys to feel comfortable in their own skin a little bit, like we talked about Terrell. I mean, he's a starting slot receiver, but we've added value in that room in a lot of different places, and some guys that can go out and do some similar things. So I think we have the luxury of a roster at this point where everybody can look right next to him and realize that guy can do the job too. I need to show up every day. Now we're gonna use a lot of people to play, but competition makes everybody better.
Which position, or what, is there a group that you really gotta,
Well,
do you really gotta look at a lot of people right now?
oh yeah, heck yeah. I mean, the defense, the entire defense. I mean, Joe, right now, Joe would tell you every position is wide open, and we all know Holly's going to play. We all know what MJ Tafisi can do, but those spots are rare. There's going to be multiple players playing at every position, and we don't really know who the first or the second guy are to go at a bunch of places. And I think it's fun in the sense that we have bodies to look at. It's nerve-wracking in the sense that we don't know what our starting 11 is going to look like on either side of the ball. Not quite yet.
You mentioned McKay. Obviously, he's young, Brandon McKay Hillstead. I'm just curious to know what your thoughts are on his potential as a Division I quarterback.
I feel like we recruited the right guy, for sure. What we saw in high school was a guy that was very confident as a leader, very comfortable in big games, could make all the throws, super quick release, threw with power, threw with touch, could move the chains with his feet. The kid could run. I think he ran a 10.8, 10.7, 100 meters. So you saw all the tools, but he looked like a kid when he got here in January. He's much more mature. That semester and the summer under his belt, the confidence in his body. I mean, I think he's got a great future ahead of him. I don't know at what point is he going to impact our roster in terms of being on the field, but I feel comfortable that we recruited the right guy, and he's gonna be involved at some point in the pretty near future.
After the whole spring and summer, diving into this offense, knowing you're going to be the play caller, what do you think is going to be the biggest change from last year?
Well, the things I want to be the biggest changes, number one, I want us to turn the ball over less. We can't win games at the level we need to with the schedule that we have and the talent that we're going to play against. We turn the ball over at the pace we did the last two seasons, especially interceptions. We were dead last in the country at quarterback at turning the ball over last year. We can't do that. We want to play faster. I don't feel like we've played at the tempo that we need to in year one and year two. We want to make a big emphasis on speed of play, and I want to spread the ball around more. We want to use all the weapons. I think we need to utilize our running backs and our tight ends and spread the ball more equally across the field. I mean, if we end up with another DT that catches 100 balls, that's great. But if not, everybody needs to be a weapon. Every position needs to be something that defensive coordinators have to consider. And I think those are things that we made strides upon in the spring, but we're not where we need to be yet. If we improve in those three areas, I think we got a better chance to go out and create problems for people.
What goes into cutting down turnovers specifically? How do you?
Well, decision making is a big part of that. Quarterback's got to make better decisions. Schematically, you can take some pressure off of people there because honestly, we didn't put the ball on the ground a lot. We threw too many interceptions. And that's what we tried to. One of the reasons I stepped in the room, I just want to be on the same page with those guys. I want to know that they know when it's time to throw a ball away, when you have to force a ball into tough situations, when it's okay to give up on a play and punt the ball. And hopefully if we're spending enough time together every day, we'll be finishing each other's sentences. And just didn't feel like we were in that position over the last 2 years. We have to protect the football first and foremost. And they did a much better job of that in the spring, only turned it over a couple times. So I thought that was a good step in the right direction.
What have you learned about yourself as a head coach in your first 2 years here? Obviously, you've been doing it for a decade now. But anything new, anything different?
I think you grow every year, every day that you do this. And probably a little bit slower to jump to a conclusion or slower to try to feel like I have to make an immediate decision early in your career, or I felt like you got to have the answer right now, and I'm comfortable saying, hey, I don't have the answer. I need to think about this. I need to pray about this. I want to talk to others about kind of seek wise counsel. Feel like it's okay to stand in front of the team and say, hey, I messed up. It's my fault. Little things I think just as you mature as a head coach. I've always tried to let guys coach. I don't want to be a micromanager. Try to stay really, really organized and make sure they know what the goals are and what the really the process should look like. But then also be be willing to step back and understand they may not do that task exactly like I would, but let them bring their own personality to it. And that's something that you kind of have to learn a little bit. It's real easy to try to tell them to do it exactly the way you would do it. And I think that's something, as I've gotten further in and grown in the profession and in this particular job, I think I've gotten better at letting them put their own personality into things. And honestly, you see some really cool, innovative, creative ways to do things that maybe you wouldn't have thought of otherwise when you do. So.
How much do you change the scheme based on the kind of the current college football, NIL, just to make sure that you can kind of sustain a model where there's a lot of guys in and out of the door and the talent level that you can bring in? Does that factor into what you're looking at?
Well, when you say scheme, are you thinking X's and O's or just overall system that we have inside the building?
I think both.
Yeah. I mean, the system that we've run X's and O's wise is there's not a system more fun to play in. I mean, it's wide open, fast break basketball on grass. And a skilled player especially is going to love being a part of that. So I think we've always been able to sell that aspect of things. And when we do get into a competitive market to recruit somebody, they look at what we do, and that's always been something we've been able to sell. This is a fun system, explosive system, more snaps, more opportunity, obviously all the above. But I think the culture inside the building is in the approach that we take from not being afraid to play a young guy and get him on the field early, but mainly building relationships with these guys. So it's not just X's and O's. It's not just win at all costs. We're doing life together. We're in a position now moving forward to be competitive, at least competitive at our level in the NIL space to some degree. You're hoping that piece, along with the culture and then what we do on both sides of the ball, that we can slow down attrition and we can slow down some of the issues that we felt this offseason when we weren't in that space yet. We weren't prepared yet in that NIL space. We're grateful people have stepped up to put us where we can be moving forward. And I'm hoping we'll see less and less attrition, because even the guys that left, even the guys that put their name on the open market and felt like they could go out and better their situation financially, every one of those guys, Coach, man, I love it here. I'm not leaving because I feel like this is something I have to do for my family, but I would really rather be here. I get it. It was tough decisions for everybody, but nobody left here angry at each other. Disappointed we lost some guys, but it was hard decisions for some dudes too, because I think we got a great culture and they love this place. So we got to just continue to maintain that and then be competitive in the space that new college football is in. I think we're there, and we'll find out what that looks like, as we come out of this season and what the off season looks like moving forward.
Time for 2 more questions. Did you see,
Two more?
Did you see DT's catch at camp?
Yes. Yeah, and I would like to say it surprised me, but I just watch the dude do that every day. So, and hear nothing but great things about him and Derek so far, and expecting and hoping to get some good news from the other guys too. But that play didn't surprise me. That's what there's a reason we won 11 games, man. The guy made us look good a lot of times. So, what else you got?
As we've asked about just about every position group except the offensive line, you had 7 guys that played most of the snaps last year. You lost 4 of them. How's that position group, shaping out with some of the returners and newcomers? Yeah, we've added more depth there. There's more guys to pull from, and we brought in 2 transfers, and Big Ralph and Maui both up front. As I look, there's more bodies to choose from. Now there's less experience. And so that's very similar to some other conversations. I feel like we've impacted every position on the roster with more depth, more available bodies by going the junior college route and the 4-year school route in terms of a lot of these guys. Now, I will say this. We tried to make a premium of 2 and 3 years of eligibility. We tried to stay away from the 1-and-1 guys. We stayed heavily away from that, although there are a couple. But there are more bodies that potentially could impact our team this fall than we had a year ago. They just haven't played for us, and they haven't played much. So that is where all the uncertainty comes from. Is it going to take a year to get them all on the same page and you're going to be really good a year from now, or can we speed this curve up and be competitive, immediately, which was what we saw in 21. That team grew up so fast. Last year's team struggled through all that process. So every team's different.
but the O-line is deeper but inexperienced. Like to think we can make it simple enough for them and get the best out of that group and have, 8 guys, maybe 8, 9 guys that could play in that rotation somewhere. I do think we got to find the starting 5 at some point, or your starting 6. I think that's important, and I believe that's part of what Coop's going to have to really focus on during fall camp. What's our starting lineup, and who's our first off the bench, who's our first tackle, who's our first guard, who's our next center. And if you could get 8 that you felt really, really good about, which I think is possible, then I feel like we'd be in a pretty good place.